Yes, my name is Dan Price. Mr. Chairman, on April 2nd, the leaders of the G20 will be gathering in London to address issues of the global economy and financial market reform. Could you tell us what that gathering of leaders could usefully do to move things along, particularly on the agenda you mentioned? Thank you.
Well, it's a difficult question because there's questions of what can be accomplished in that kind of forum, and a lot depends on the work that's being done now in advance by deputies and staff and finance ministers who are trying to set up the program. I think that from the perspective of the G20, that the focus ought to be on the international aspects, obviously, of this crisis. I talked today primarily about what the United States can do, and I left implicit, and perhaps I shouldn't have in front of the Council of Foreign Relations, the fact that this is very much an international problem, and it requires international solutions.
Hedrick Smith with PBS. You've talked about the need to stabilize the financial system. We've seen enormous capital flows go from the government to major financial institutions. What is it going to take, and what is the record so far of getting them actually to begin lending money again so that the lubricant of the economy is working?
So I think that the money, the capital that has gone into the banking system has produced beneficial results.
Steve Charnovitz from George Washington University Law School. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your comprehensive reform. I had a question about the Systemic Risk Authority. As you've described it, it's looking at financial institutions, financial instruments, really the private sector. But shouldn't an authority like that, if it's going to be forward-looking and avoid financial crises, also look at the policies of the government? Monetary policy, housing policy, trade policy, things like that. And therefore, shouldn't this authority also be looking at the Federal Reserve, the Congress, and the executive branch?
Well, I think you're creating a number of conflicts of authority and power there. I mean, obviously, the Federal Reserve is independent in making its monetary policies. The Congress obviously cannot be managed by an authority that they create. So I think at best that what an authority could do would be to point out potential problems and let the appropriate authorities, whether they be the Federal Reserve, the Congress, the administration, address them.